There it is. All right. And now I get to press the go live button. All right. So let's take a few moments to like, share, place this on your social media. Let's build a bit of an audience here because what I want to do, hey Desert Camouflage, what I want to do is discuss not necessarily what's happening in the stock markets, but really the ramifications of what's happening in the stock markets, right? So, I want this stream to discuss some of the particulars of what happens after you've gotten your stonks and made your money, right? What happens after you buy and you sell or during that process, and some of the greater implications of what's happening in the stock market as a whole. So, let's see. Did I write like a big long intro about what all this is? Did. And I also, I kind of also wanted to hit the fact that this is about collectivism too. It's not just about sticking it to a hedge fund. It's showing that there's collective power, right? That we as citizens, as regular people, listen, I have a day job. I just got done putting in 10 hours today? Like, I am not some rich person who is, just doing this for the larks, right? For the lulz, right? I have investments in cryptocurrency because I am hoping to God it goes to the moon, and then I can quit my godforsaken job, pay off this house, and actually do something that I enjoy doing, right? And I've been hodling for, since mid 2018, and I lost my ass a couple of times too. Point is, this is more about, getting people involved and getting people to understand what is happening and what's at stake. So it's been a couple minutes. I know on the other social medias, it'll probably kick up a little better. I don't have that big of a following on YouTube, so I shouldn't worry too much about those numbers. So let's get into it, right? If you ever end up watching this, maybe I'll make an edit. Just skip to the 3-minute marker or the 2.5-minute mark, and get to the gist of it. Right. So, stocks. What are they? Why is everybody into it? What happens when you mess with them? So the thing that people need to understand is that stocks are regulated. Cryptocurrency is not, and cryptocurrency is decentralized. Cryptocurrency is not owned or controlled by anyone. So there are companies who create a blockchain, right? And then they own the blockchain, right? But in reality, they don't control squat because it's the blockchain itself that generates additional coins, that generates the transactions, that secures them, that it ensures that they're encrypted, and it's actually the users that communicate with one another through this blockchain that actually justifies its existence. It's the crypto miners using their hardware to mine the blockchains, or in some cases, holding enough of the cryptocurrency to function as a node, and then it's instead of proof of work, it's a proof of stake. So there are other tutorials, other videos out there that explain that in significantly more detail, even on a more layman's level. I would recommend watching that. But stocks, and this is what really gets me about how the SEC and the IRS are trying to leverage cryptocurrency as stocks as equal, because they're not. Stocks exist as a representation of the alleged monetary value of a given company that has been incorporated and is traded on the stock exchange, whether it's NASDAQ, NYSE, whatever, right? So ideally, your company, company XYZ, is worth, I don't know, $10 million. And when you set it up to the stock exchange and you list it, you say, I believe my company should be separated into one stock per dollar, right? And that's where you start off. $10 million, 10 million stocks. Well, as the company, right, with the stocks, whoever holds the most stocks controls the company. Literally. Like, legally, if you have 50% plus one of the stocks, you now have a controlling share of the company, and you are the CEO, essentially. Whether or not you actually give a damn about the company, you control it. So, all joking aside, if all of these Reddit users decided to buy all these GameStop stocks, we're gonna have to rename the company GameStop at this point. If they all decided to pool those stocks and give it to the Wall Street Bets chairman, right? He would effectively become the CEO of GameStop. In truth, he could literally walk in on a board meeting with a 50% plus one share and say, I am the captain now, which would be hilarious for the memes because this is a giant meme after all. And literally tell the board what's going to happen and how and why. He could even choose to then delist it from that point forward, right? So stocks represent the tangible aspects of the existing company insofar as valuation and the ability to control said company, the decisions, the finances, what have you. Which is why hedge funds are extremely predatory and why this short stock, this short selling is such a big deal, because this is exactly how these hedge funds and these other companies bankrupt other companies, buy them up, and then liquidate them for a profit, right? Because what they're essentially doing is driving down the value of the stock so that they can buy it and then liquidate it at a profit, because what they did is they said that the company is going to hit this level at least, and we're going to buy the stocks there. And if it goes lower than that, we're going to make money off of the difference. That's essentially what shorting is, or leveraging that short. And that's what this Marvin Capital has been doing, which is owned by... now I forgot. Somebody will throw it in there. And it's those two companies that were betting on GameStop to go from like $20 to less, right? And Reddit was like, nah, you are not going to tank one of the last vestiges of 90s nostalgia, and who has been a part of, culture in America since, the technology boom of the 90s, right? You're not going to do that. And so what they did is they're like, you know what? Not only are you not going to destroy our company, we're going to make you suffer for it. We're going to make you pay back all of that extra stock, because here's the thing. A short, or that leveraged position, is kind of like a pre-purchase, or taking out a loan, if you will. It's a promise that I'm going to buy all of these things at a given time, and my bet is that they're going to be at a low value. So I'm going to buy all this stock. I'm going to buy 10 million shares of stock, but I think it's going to be $4. So I'm setting aside, what did I say, 10 million? So 40 million. I'm setting aside $40 million so that when it inevitably goes to these levels, I can buy it and make money because of it. There's more nuance to it than that, but that's the gist of it. Instead, if that 30-day mark hits, or that time in the future hits, and that stock is not worth $4, guess what? You are still liable. You are still compelled and obligated to buy those stocks. Now, follow me. This company bet that it was going to be $4, so that's what they set aside. They have to buy the stock, no matter what it's worth, period. They have to buy it. Actually, today was one of the days where that one of their positions actually came to fruition, and they had to buy it. And at close, GameStop was worth $325. So that being said, they bet on $4 and now it's worth $325. That means they had to buy however many pieces of stock at let's do the numbers and forgive the clacking, but 325 divided by 4. They had to pay essentially 81.4 times as much per stock than what they had set aside, which has cost them and every other hedge fund that had this position close to $90 billion. Nearly 1/10 of $1 trillion. Nearly the federal budget. It is more. They have lost more money than the annual rate of tuition for the entire country. Right? The amount of money they lost could have paid for universal education for an entire year. That, ladies and gentlemen, is one of the major takeaways. That is what buying and leveraging stock and taking short positions can do. And that's one of the risks. And that's one of the main things that's happening right now. So By you buying stock, throwing $20 at it at all prevents it from dipping. Period. Right? And the more money you spend, the more you can buy, the less of a likelihood that it does dip, because the more you buy, the more it goes up, right? Numbers go up. That's the point. Now, here's the other side of that coin. This is why hedge funds are getting screwed, and this is why they manipulated the market for the past 48 hours, right? And why there's so many class action lawsuits, and people like you and me are going to probably make a little bit of money from that. That aside, when we do make the money, there's some things that we as a whole are probably not familiar with. And that's the gist of this video. I realize I spent about 10 minutes talking about what I said I wasn't going to talk about, but it is important to set that stage. If you buy a stock and then sell it, you're liable for capital gains. Now, that doesn't mean much to you, but what capital gains are is essentially a tax on the profit minus the order fees and all that. Whatever profit you made, you owe a percentage of that to Uncle Sam. That's what a capital gains is. And the capital gains is much higher if you don't hold on to the stock for at least a year. So what's going to happen, or what has already happened, is the buying and the selling, the day trading, if you will, has accumulated a lot of this capital gains, which could unfortunately outweigh the actual profits at the end of the day. And that's one of the things that people really need to watch out for. So if you're going to buy something, just buy it and hold on to it until we've, destroyed the hedge funds. And then by all means, sell to your heart's content and hopefully you make some profit. The reason why I say that, and the reason why it's such a big deal to hold, is because aside from the capital gains, and it goes back to I guess you kind of have to tie it in. The longer you hold this leverage, right? Because that's what it is, right? So I bought the stock, right? I bought my one share of GameStop, right? If I don't sell it, the price can only go so low, because in order to sell it, there has to be a buyer. And in order to sell it, somebody else has to be willing to sell, right? So if all of these hedge funds sell their stock at this loss, or try to anyway, and people keep buying it, it's going to drive the prices up. Meaning they're only going to be hurting themselves. And if we don't sell it back, well, guess what? The price continues to rise. The longer we hold as well, and the more that they have on their books, the more they are held accountable for. So it's like a win-win for us. At this point, all we have to do is throw money at it, wait until they've been screwed, and then we can sell to our heart's content. That is the point. And then sure, fine, we have to endure the capital gains tax, but it's a very small price to pay compared to whatever the major profit is after having held for so long. And the fact that we, the people, and I don't know if I want to swear on this live stream, but we definitely destroyed several hedge funds. And to me, that's worth any price. If I threw $2,000 into this because I wanted to do my part. I wanted to be in a couple of different ones and be able to, hold, double-digit, even triple-digit shares if at all possible. Because I want to stick it to these people as much as possible. And that's not even a lot of money. There's people out there putting six figures into this mess. There's Chinese billionaires saying, yeah, well, I'm about to throw 10 mil at this, Mo, and get my entire community to back me up. So there is definitely bigger money involved. But you know what? Your $20, your $5, your $100, your $2,000, that could mean the difference between these hedge funds getting away with market manipulation and being held liable for tens upon billions of dollars, hundreds of billions of dollars. Honestly, there is a very real possibility that we could... the concept is called infinite loss. So let's think about that for a minute. We could, in theory, make these companies be eligible and liable for an infinite amount of loss. Sure, we only have so much money, and it would require basically the entire planet ganging up on these hedge funds, on these several stocks to make it happen. But theoretically, we could make that Melvin Capital Company owe Like right now, they already owe 19 billion, right? We could add a zero to that. We could add 2 zeros to that. We could add 3 zeros to that. It just depends on how long we can hold out and how much capital we have and how many resources we can put into driving the price of the stock up until their shorts time out, right? And that's the other thing, right? We can't just indefinitely raise the price of GameStop because it's not going to happen, and eventually it's going to price out. But the point of doing it is to make them suffer, and they're only going to suffer for a couple more days or weeks, whatever that may be. So eventually we're going to want to take that driving force energy and apply it to other stocks, and that's the point. Leveraging our wealth and our power at this point is about holding these hedge funds accountable. And let's just talk about the name, the word hedge fund. It is literally an organization that exists on hedging their funds, hedging their bets against the market, against activity, against volatility, against whatever. They're basically saying, you know what? We think this is going to happen and we have the money to make it happen. So our bets are hedged. They're casinos. They're the house, and the house always wins. Except for when 4 million degenerates from Reddit have a stick up their ass and be like, you know what? Nah, we're not going to let this happen. And in fact, it was only the intervention of the SEC and multiple stock exchanges conspiring to include financial institutions, to include the President of the United States conspiring to shut these things down and to keep people out, while allowing these institutions to do aftermarket trading, which shouldn't be legal in the first place, but also prevents real people like us from participating in the first place, right? So hedge funds are intrinsically immoral, intrinsically unethical, and intrinsically break the rules that are there to prevent that kind of bullshit from happening in the first place. So, the takeaway is, we have enough power, and we've consolidated and leveraged that power so effectively that we have forced these institutions to violate the rules that they themselves set forth and are demanding protections, while simultaneously breaking the rules and trying to sabotage the market that they themselves sabotage on a regular basis after a mere 48 hours of activity from internet users who are doing this out of spite. Which brings me to perhaps the most important point of this video. Collectivism. We, the people, have power. Period. Not just the power or a power. We have it. Period. Dot. We have it. Not them. Not governments. Not stock markets. None of that. And we proved it. We can destroy billionaires. We can take away their... We could, in theory, do what they did. We could leverage Amazon stock and buy shorts of Amazon, right? And to such a degree that we could then short sell and undercut all of those stocks down to whatever that short level is and bankrupt Amazon and dismantle it simply by absorbing it into our own. And then once we actually hit those levels after a month or whatever, we make stupid amounts of bank on top of the whatever we made from buying the stock in the first place. And that's the point. The stock market is just it's just a scam. It's a lie. It's an illusion. It's if you have enough money to abuse the system, there is nothing stopping you from abusing it. It's what these institutions, it's what these hedge funds do. It's why they exist. They exist to take advantage of these loopholes. They exist to blatantly and deliberately bankrupt these companies so that they can be liquidated at a profit. That is what they exist to do. And if we collectively, and I'm talking like 300 million of us, I'm talking the global population ganging up on the stock market, if we just poured $20 times, well, let's see, $20 times 270 million people is what? About 40 billion? 4 billion? So imagine if that was $200 on average, $2,000 on average. We have trillions of dollars of economic power in our hands. And if foreign markets got involved in it too, We could crush conglomerates because Amazon is traded on the stock market, Apple is traded on the stock market, Walmart is traded on the stock market, Chase, Apple, Google, Microsoft. All of these people, all of these massive, powerful, untouchable corporations are traded on the stock exchange, and they are inflated in value, and they think they're untouchable. We tanked 90 billion. We caused $90 billion worth of damage in 48 hours. People did that. People who have been locked out of their accounts, who have been limited on how much they can buy, who have been denied access to the after-hours trading that apparently the big cojones can do, right? Despite the book being thrown at us, despite corruption, despite collusion, despite cheating, lying, stealing, selling our own leveraged positions against our will for our own good, despite all that shit, we took them to the cleaners to the tune of $90 billion. Now imagine if we overwhelmed the system entirely. We could break the stock market, and we would be the ones benefiting from it. And that's the point, ladies and gentlemen. That is the key takeaway. That is the thing that people need to realize the most. It's not just, haha, stock market go brr, or haha, we make fun managers cry. We could destroy the stock market. We could destroy the economy as it exists today. And in fact, we've done that already. When the economy shut down in March in 2020 due to the COVID pandemic, the GDP of the United States, the wealthiest, most powerful nation in the world, second to none, not even comparable, dropped 34% of its GDP. Over a third of its GDP gone. Just for 1 month of being shut down. That is the power of the people. Because did we lose all that money because of, businesses not having billions of dollars? No, because they got bailed the fuck out. They had $30 trillion sent to them and just printed off from the reserves. The reason why we lost 34%, which I don't know what it was at the time, but call it $6 or $7 trillion worth of GDP, is because people weren't at work. Because our labor wasn't being exploited. And we weren't toiling away, making these companies money. We weren't spending money. We weren't consuming. We weren't doing the thing that this economy relies on. And because of that, it suffered egregiously. So why is it? Why is it when the stocks go up, people get rich, but nothing happens to us? We don't get pay benefits. We don't get raises. We don't get benefits. We don't get better housing. We don't get better interest rate. None of that benefits us. In fact, gas prices goes up and it's more expensive to get to work, while we're still getting paid shitty hourly hours and having to work 60-hour weeks. So why is it when the stock market goes down, we lose our jobs, we lose our benefits, our pensions, and everything else? Doesn't make sense, does it? And if it was a perfect system, and if it was a system that benefited the masses, then it would never do anything other than benefit the masses, because it would be protected by the sheer fact that it's a collective and that the masses are participating in it. Because so few are participating, and because the wealth is so concentrated in the hands of the few, the stock market only exists to benefit the few. We don't have an economy that benefits the masses. If we took all of the money that currently exists in the stock market, pulled it out, and instead redistributed it to people, imagine how much more improved our lives could be. What if instead we funneled that money as a pool into Medicare, into education, and into public works, and into infrastructure? That's the point. And so many people are waking up to it, but not enough people, I think, understand that. So I don't know how to describe it differently or simply, or, from a different context. But the stock market is essentially, okay, how about this? You're working 60-hour weeks, and your job pays out a bonus, which I know is not realistic for many people anyway. But say it pays out a bonus, right? The stock market is essentially saying, here's your bonus. And if you work hard and you do your thing and you're loyal to the company, you get your bonus. But then that 3 month comes around, that end of the year comes around, and you don't get your bonus. But you put in that work. You put in that work day in and day out, and you saw that that bonus has a ticker going every single day. You know exactly how much that bonus is going to be worth. And every single day you're like, damn, it just went up another 2%. Oh, nice. It went up 10%. Oh, it dipped 3%. Nice. No, it went up 3%. Sweet. Every single day you're watching this bonus grow and grow and grow and grow. And you're told that the more money you put into it, the more time you put into it, and all this, that, and the other, the faster, the stronger, the better it becomes, right? That's the stock market. And your boss is constantly getting richer because he's tied that bonus into his paycheck or into their paycheck, right? Bigger the bonus goes, the more money the boss has. Even though he just has the same amount of that bonus as you do, right? Or allegedly, right? He has a slightly bigger piece of the pie because he's the boss. So when that bonus crashes or deflates or goes into half, what does he do? Instead of, oh darn, the shares of that bonus that I held got less, he fires you instead. And then takes your portion of the bonus. That is the stock market. Now, what if instead your labor was immediately paid out to you? What if the profits that your company makes gets paid back to you weekly, monthly, quarterly, or annually by law? Imagine if the value of the company was directly tied to the value of the employee. That is what we could have. That is exactly what we could have. And the way to do it is exactly what we are doing. Our collective involvement in dismantling the system, of bringing to light how corrupt it is, how gamed and how just manipulative it is. We could literally, not figuratively, not metaphorically, no hyperbole, we could literally concert our efforts and target companies the same way these hedge funds do. And we could bring them down. And we should. We should do it until, as a nation, Congress is like, the people are going to continue devastating the stock market until it's gone. And the principal involvement of economics and labor is redistributed to them. So we're going to lose our asses regardless. So I think it's time to finally do it. That is the power that we have. Conversely, we could general strike. We could literally all, as a nation or a global community, not go to work. Just not. And that would do just as much damage as buying all these stocks are doing to these hedge funds. And I think people are waking up to that fact, that we really do control our future. We just don't know how to. We don't know how to leverage our power. We don't know how to leverage our control because it isn't individual. And in America, we are so, brainwashed to believe in individualism and to only rely on ourselves, that we have forgotten that we are stronger together. That if we do something together, we can do more than if we separately try to accomplish it on our own. And that is the point. And that's exactly why we're brainwashed to depend on individualism. That's exactly why we're told to be, work and toil and pull ourselves up by our bootstraps. Because if we work together as a community, we wouldn't have slums. We wouldn't have hoods. We wouldn't have ghettos. We wouldn't have the working poor. We wouldn't have these, poor communities or these underprivileged societies. We would have a fully functioning utopian society because it would exist to function to support the society. Why have a government if not to support the people? Why would we elect people to represent us if they're not going to? That's the point. If we're not going to hold them accountable, if we're not going to organize to hold them accountable, then we are in effect doing it to ourselves. And what we're realizing is that is what's been going on. We've been lied to, we've been misled, we've been manipulated. And now we're realizing, nah, that ain't it. And we're not going to stand for it. And sure, I'm not the only one talking about, a general strike. I'm not the only one talking about these stocks and all this, that, and the other. I get it. Hell, I don't even have the largest following out of the people they're doing. I'm probably on the slower scale. But at the same time, it needs to be said. And it needs to be said in as many ways as possible. And it needs to be shared, and it needs to be observed, and it needs to be told until it finally catches on. Because when it does, it's going to be an incredible thing, right? As destructive as 2020 was to many different facets of our daily life, it only was that destructive because of the momentum and the fact that it just continued to build and build and build to the point where, at first it was like, oh, a major inconvenience, stay home for a week or two. Crap, I'm going to take a pay cut, or I have to use my sick days, or I have to use my vacation days, and that's inconvenient. But then it became, I can't go back to work. I lost my job. Companies are going under. 30% of all mom and pop shops have disappeared. All that generational wealth gone in an instant. Oh, now people are dying. Now we have 500,000. Now we have, now it's 100,000. Now it's 250,000. Now it's 500,000 dead. Hundreds of millions infected. Right, tens of millions, I guess, for the country. We got, protests and organizations. We have coups. We have white supremacists rising up. We have fascism on the rise, right? Oh, now 40 million people are facing evictions. Yeah, it was pretty garbage for a very long time. And it was because it continued to build and multiply and grow and exacerbate the issues that could have been resolved with the stroke of a pen. So if the exact opposite happened, and we built our own networks, our own infrastructures, and rallied together to consolidate our resources, to focus our efforts, to combine our attacks, to consolidate these things, we could build a forward-moving momentum that still will eventually roll downhill, but a downhill momentum that just destroys hedge funds, destroys the stock market, destroys corruption, eliminates white supremacy, destroys these bastards and their platforms, and then starts holding these politicians accountable and destroys money in politics. And then finally, once that ball rolls and comes to a cresting stop, now we have our own resources. We have our own grassroots infrastructure. We have our own banking systems that are held and controlled by citizens and that are open source. And we have our own social media that is open source and controlled and managed and monitored by people. And we eliminate, misleading news, and we eliminate propaganda, and we just focus on sharing information. And we have our collective spaces. We have our collective markets. And we finally have the ability to collaborate and organize and to share that information and then to spread that wealth amongst our own communities. That is what we can do in 2021. 2020 was the darkness. It was the malevolence. It was the fallen era. 2021 can be hope. Walking out of the darkness from the mysteries of the unknown and into the light of perseverance, of generosity. And we do it very simply. Working together. It is that easy. It cannot be any easier, any simpler than that. All we have to do is work together. That's it. Combine our resources, combine our efforts. Do we need a leader? No. What we need is a fulcrum. All we need is, all right, this week we're destroying hedge funds. Tomorrow we dismantle Amazon. The day after that, we go after Facebook and Google. The day after that, we organize against corrupt politicians. The day after that, we dismantle the unjust criminal justice system. The day after that, who knows? But that's all it takes, is taking this momentum and leveraging it and then applying it over and over and over and over again. And it seems like the most effective thing that has worked so far has been taking on the financial institutions at their own game, on their turf, because money talks. Because the Black Lives Matter and police brutality marches were met with brutality, and we remained peaceful. So nothing really changed, right? And I'm not going to advocate for violence, I'm just putting it into perspective. But the second we started playing on the stock market and taking tens of billions of dollars from the financial elite that thought they were untouchable, we stole their power. And there was nothing they could do about it. Sure, they tried to play some games, but ultimately they're still screwed. Ultimately, they played themselves and they have no way to get out of it. That's the point. So what we could do is start from the financial institutions and work our way across or down or however you want to visualize it. We can start by spending all of February dismantling these corrupt predatory businesses, hedge funds, and whatever else. Profit from it, build our own infrastructures and resources, and then leverage those to go after social media, to go after search engines like Google, which profit off of big money and searches based on advertisements and this, that, and the other. We can even go after YouTube. We can even go after what's another one out there? Microsoft, right? And Apple, their software operating system that essentially are a monopoly unto themselves. Yeah, Linux exists, but you basically need a computer science degree to know how to use it. The thing is, we could reinvest in our own communities. We could push out major corporations and fundraise and crowdsource mom and pop shops. We could literally have community works programs. We could rebuild our own roads and schools and this, that, and the other. Just by working together and attacking and dismantling the financial institutions, which have so much pull on every facet of our life. If we can break them and break that hold over us, we win. Plain and simple. It's just there are some, pitfalls to be aware of. And beyond the actual losses of, the dips and losing whatever you spent the money on, there's the capital gains. And other than that, that's it. But it is important to be informed of that stuff. So, I think this has gone on long enough. I actually wasn't expecting to talk this long, so sorry for that. Hopefully it wasn't too boring or monotonous, and hopefully you learned something, and hopefully it was something that you feel you could share with others. So, with that being said, my name is Samuel Ronan. I've been politically active since about 2015. I've run for the chair of the DNC. I've ran for Congress. I've ran for state representative. I've had a D and an R next to my name. I've founded nonprofits. I've helped develop open source software like Hello Voter. You can download that on Android and the Apple Store. And it basically replaces Nation Builder and NPG Van. And you can use it to build your communities and to build your networks because it allows you to canvas. What else? I ran for DNC chair again this year and I got pushed out. But aside from that, I'm just a regular Joe like you. I work a job. I put in 50, 60-hour weeks. I rely on overtime to pay my bills. I was in the Air Force, active duty, and I left to get into politics, to try and get into activism. And, now my goal is to build this infrastructure. And if in any way, form, or fashion, it pulls off and it helps somebody, then I can go to sleep happy. At the end of the day, it's about building that community, building that infrastructure so that we can leverage it and win. So with that out of the way, like, share, subscribe to my YouTube channel. I'm on Twitter at Ronan for Progress. I'm on Facebook at Ronan for Progress. I have a Twitch channel, although I think it's also Ronan for Progress. And yeah, just like, share, and subscribe. Let's keep this thing going because this is the beginning, folks, and we're already winning. We hit the ground running with our victories. So with that being said, thank you for watching. Thank you for being a part of this.